Ooh.
IT security covers many, many technologies and techniques, and there's no way we can cover them all today. But what we do want to cover is a couple things that'll help you if you have been asked to do InfoSec as part of your job. They're the life hacks we're going to show you today.
I think in any security life hack, we have to start off talking about logging. But
Mhm.
before we dig into it, I need to make sure that you're aware that there is going to be a misunderstanding. That when you just say logging, it means lots of things in people's minds. It could mean syslog. It
Mhm.
could mean trap. It could mean text
Windows
files.
events logs, flat files, web server logs, security logs from your Linux boxes or your firewalls. It's logs
Right.
means one thing, but that's not the context we're going to talk about.
Right. What we're really talking about, at least the only thing that matters in a security context, is log file aggregation. So
Mhm.
why don't you run us through the theory of what log file aggregation is, and then we'll take a look at what it looks like.
Sure. So log file aggregation really is, instead of having to go out here and get this log and go out here and get this log and get that one from over there, which is the way a lot of people start,
Hmm.
is bringing all those into one place, whether that is on a file system or into a tool, which is better, that allows for searching and indexing, to be able to show all that information. And if you can then normalize that information.
Yeah.
So like login event failures, they look completely different on a Windows server versus a Linux box versus a firewall versus a router. But if you understand that and have the logic behind it that can say, oh, these are all login errors, then
Hmm.
your tool can help you say, oh, this particular account has been hopping around, maybe doing some things it shouldn't be doing. And that's a great way to find bad actors.
Right. And just to clarify, if you haven't experienced a log file aggregator, the point is that one login failure on one server is nothing. It's almost
Yeah.
like that's a user having a bad moment. But if the same account fails to log in on this server, this server, this server, and you notice it hopping across but the only way you get that is by bringing all your logs together and being able to see that pattern across. And
Hmm.
that's what log file aggregation does. So what does it look like though?
Okay, so one of the things that we're going to use SEM as an example here is one of the great things about it is it will go ahead and pull all that information together. So like we use the login failure as an option. So we can
Hmm.
actually just see on a quick little dashboard, here's Billy Bob. Billy Bob's got a lot of login failures. But what's more interesting to me is the one here we have administrator. Now, everyone knows administrator is the generic account used pretty much anywhere in the Windows world,
Hmm.
but maybe that's trying to hop server to server to try to see if you can get into them, maybe with the local admin rights as opposed to the
Hmm.
domain level. And being able to see this and understand that this is a login event that spans maybe, like you were saying, not a single server, or maybe even not a small subnet. Maybe it's randomly going around in your infrastructure. You can all of a sudden say, you know what? There's something wrong here. It's time for me to investigate.
Right. This is somebody just poking.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the key things to understand is that log file aggregation as a concept is good, but the ability that you want to look for is the ability to connect to different devices, right?
Mm-hmm. And some of that can be done manually. You can use Windows will allow you to send their logs to a central Windows server that you can then pour through. I know Linux has log shipping. There is shipping available for pretty much most major platforms, but that doesn't normalize it. And
Hmm.
that's the problem because login failure X, like I said, on Cisco even looks different than login failure X on a Juniper device or on a Meraki or anything else. So even
Right.
though it's in the same family, the same kind of role in your environment, being able to see that and understand these are all the same type of event is going to save you tons and tons of time when you actually have to go and dig for one of these things.
So the next thing that we need to talk about is tail, awk, sed, grep, and regex.
And Gesundheit, sir.
Right. Right. Okay. So tail, awk, sed, grep, and regular expressions or regex are commands that you're going to need to know. You have to know what they do. You have to know what they're for. You have to know the basics of it. And you have to come to terms with the fact that some point during your career, you're going to have to learn a lot about one or maybe more of those commands. Today is not that day.
It is not going to be that day. But the thing we really want to kind of make sure is in front of everybody's idea is Control F is not going to be enough. You need to know some kind of command line stuff to help you through these large files, mostly for flat files, realistically.
What you're really going to need to know about is text manipulation, and text manipulation on a system that doesn't have a GUI, that you're going to be working through command line or through scripted commands. So that's really what our focus is. And right now, I just want to give a 1-minute overview of what each of those commands does. So let's start off with tail. Tail, as the name might imply, gives you the last few lines of a file. You can tell it how many lines of the file you want. You want the last 5, the last 10, the last 50. More importantly, especially when you're doing something in real time, is you can tell it to keep giving you new lines as they come up. So you can tail a file in perpetuity so that it just keeps on spitting things out as new lines come in, and you can watch them. You also can look at the first few lines, which there's another command called head, but really it's tail. And you can say, give me the first 5 lines or the first 10 lines, but most often you're using it to see what's coming in at the end.
Yeah, and it's useful in a lot of things. I like the live tail logs when I'm doing installations. I like the live tail logs occasionally when I'm watching web browsers because I hate hitting the refresh or whatever, just looking at the logs coming through just to understand what's happening at any point in time. And that one actually tails in nicely to grep, which is kind of the search function. And I use it on both Linux and Windows. You can get tools that'll allow you to work that way. And it is a weird name, and I know Linux and Unix were very happy to make very, very short names, and I don't know what grep started out as, but whatever. And basically it's just a find feature, and it's got a couple of fun functions in it. You can pull information directly from the pipeline, which is good. So you can actually tail a file and then send that result into a grep function to look for things. And there's 2 parameters that I use frequently. It is I, which flips case insensitivity off. So, or excuse me, yes, flips it off. So I don't care what case the word is in. And the other one I use is V, which a lot of people don't use, but V is the inverse function. So find all the lines that don't match this thing.
Yes. And the other thing that I want to make sure that, especially as somebody who's new to InfoSec understands, is that grep can be stacked up. So you can grep for banana. You can then grep and say any line that does not also include apple. You can then say I'm looking for anything that has matched those 2 things that also match kumquat, you know, case insensitive, because who knows how to spell, you know, that kind of thing. You can keep on stacking those up in some way so that you find the line that matches. So it's a cumulative kind of search feature. All right, so that takes us to awk, AWK, which takes a line of input and lets you split it up. That's really what it does, is you say on commas, on dashes, on spaces, on tab, whatever it is, I want to split everything up. So every time you see this delimiter, start a new thing. What is the thing? It's a field or a variable, which you can then use further along in your command to say, like, if I take a date and I want to split it by slashes, then I can grep on a year where $1 or $2 or $3 is a particular thing. So now it takes a line, a free-form line of text, lets you split it based on a particular, again, delimiter or character, and then treat each of those splits as a variable, which you can do other things to. That's what it does.
It's incredibly flexible. One of the things I like is that flexibility, and you can actually write little programs that you store in a flat file that run against. So if you have a complex file, but if you have simple files, CSVs, TSVs, space delimited, vertical pipe, and we see all manners, or just like catting through your ets password to list out user and home directory, that's incredibly simple using something like awk.
Right. So that takes us to sed. Do you want it or do you want me to take it?
Sed, I'll reserve the right for regular expressions.
Okay. So sed is basically very similar to awk in that it lets you look through a string, but it uses regular expressions. We'll get to them. Don't panic. Uses regular expressions to change the text or the file or input stream. So the idea here is that you're not necessarily working on an entire block of text. You're working on line by line by line, which matches something or doesn't match something or whatever. And then you can edit it. You can change that variable, that value to something else. That's really how sed works in a nutshell.
Yeah, and the thing that's good, bad about sed is that you have to remember that it is a stream editor. I mean, that's what it's doing. It's processing this. So if it's processing a flat file, it's processing it as a full stream. And then that output can go normally right to the screen, especially if you're doing some type of search or you want to make some minor tweaks or you want to edit things in real time to find something like right now, it's great. But you can also pipe that out to another file, which is
Hmm.
really nice if you need to like roll that information up to somebody else, because screen caps are great, but not everyone wants to read, logs and logs and logs and logs.
Right. And if you're looking for a real world example of that, so SED would be the kind of thing that you would use for that normalization, where I'm taking a stream of login information from my Windows boxes. I'm using SED to normalize it, to change things around, or to use different words so that now my strings, my login strings, match up with the things coming in from my firewall and the things coming in from my Linux boxes and the things coming from everything else. So I can use SED to normalize things as the text is coming in, as those messages are coming.
Hmm. And that, of course, leads us to regex or regular expressions, or however you want to pronounce it. But all it boils down to is I always think of it as like a mini program for string manipulation.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it. And there's no way I will know all of it. There is zero chance. Whenever I need to do this, I use websites, I use stuff like Regex Pal or Regex Expressions, or I go to the MSDN articles to see what's happening and how it actually works. Because there's almost always just one thing I didn't remember. Oh, is it /W or /D? Do I put the period before something?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of cheat sheets. But what's really good about it is that it's implemented in nearly any language. It's implemented in nearly any shell, everything in .NET, everything in Linux, everything, multiple web engines. There's tons of stuff that just kind of support regular expressions out of the box, and they are incredibly powerful. You don't need to know them all. You don't need to go out and buy a book on regular expressions. If you do, kudos to you, and put lots of flags in it because you're going to refer back to it. But I always just kind of cheat and do the ask Alta duck bingle who, which is basically whatever web browser you want to find my cheat sheet.
Wait, ask Alta Duck Bingle who?
Yeah, I don't care what browser you use.
Okay, got it.
And I
Okay,
certainly don't
fine.
care what search engine you use.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, yeah, if you need to remember one thing, it's that regular expressions lets you either find things or find and change things. It is your search or search and replace function for any piece of text anywhere in your system. That's really what it comes down to.
So those are just a few of the IT life hacks for security that we use. We'd love to hear which ones you're using, so please share them with us.
Meanwhile, look for more IT life hacks coming soon.